30 minutes to show you all about our job costing integrated solution, which is powered by SAP Business One. So what we're going to go through briefly today is job costing software powered by SAP Business One, just to give you an idea of what the solution is suitable, what type and size of business. This solution is suitable for implementing to a business typically with a turnover of between £3 and £50 million. What type of business, what do we mean by job costing? So typically this business is a business that would be tendering for a contract to implement heating systems in commercial buildings, and then also tendering for a contract to service that installation. So they're working to a job or working to a project. You've previously been sent today, and it is available on request. We have an industry case study for a very similar business called JBC Industrial Services. They've done an implementation of the system, and for them it was all about getting the integration that they want. Previously they had multiple separate systems. Getting the integration gave them that advance on reporting that they were looking to get. So for today's webinar, Charlie Hayward is going to sort of take you through 3 different sections. So first of all, we're going to show how the solution works for you in terms of creating that important estimate and making sure it's accurate before even getting the job. The second section is going to be very much about you've got the job, but now we need to utilize and schedule that resource most effectively. So within our job costing solution, there is an interactive drag and drop scheduling board, which is very useful in terms of getting that utilization that you may seek. And thirdly, and arguably maybe most importantly, it's giving you those valuable reports telling you exactly where that job or contract is up to. If that job is not profitable, why isn't it profitable, and what profit is you getting from that. So those are the 3 areas we're going to go through today. I'm now going to hand over to Charlie, who's going to give you an insight into what the software can do.
Okay, thanks Adam. Okay, we just close that. Okay, so within SAP Business One, we've got a module called Job Costing, which allows users to manage projects and jobs that run through the business, right from the quotation stage through to the actual completion. So as I mentioned, there's 3 areas that we're going to look at today. This first section is all about the estimates. And as a project manager, this would be the type of screen that you would be using on a regular basis. So this screen, you can see here we've got 5 filters at the top. So we can look at all our projects that are in a particular status, so what stage in their life cycle they are, the different types of jobs that we have running through the system, the different categories. So if you've got different departments within your business that work on different projects, and then obviously here your project managers, so who is actually responsible for that project. By selecting the different filters here, we can narrow down the list of which active jobs we see in our window here. What I'm going to do for this demonstration is we're going to just look at a particular job that was created yesterday. So if I just now search, you can see it now reduces that the number of jobs in my window, and I can now just look at that one particular job. Now if I go into the actual job screen here, okay, this is now given us the insight into the project. So it gives us a lot of the headline information on the job number, the customer that it's for, a description of the job, and then other details on a more in-depth description and perhaps some internal instructions that need to be carried through the job with any paperwork that is associated with the project. Here we can start looking at the timings, and we'll come back to those when we look at the schedule, but you can see here we can have our quoted timescales, and then as we progress through the job, we can update these with our actuals. Okay. The first section that we discussed was estimates. Within the job, we can build up our quote or our estimates. So here we've got a list of all our quote lines that we've put together for this project. And as you can see here, there are a combination of material, items, staff, and even resources. So with the three attributes, we can quote accurately for our project. So it doesn't have to be just items that you have in stock. It may be resources that you call on from third parties. Okay. The way that the job is actually structured is we have this concept of as a job and a sub-job. So the job holds all the headline information, whereas the sub-job is where all the transactions will take place. So if I just show you into the sub-job for now. If we look at the quotes here, you can now see that I'm able to actually edit these figures here and make any changes necessary. So I can update the quantity of something, I could change the price. I'm even on certain items able to amend the actual cost. In a lot of heating and ventilation projects, the costs can be quite variable, and you can see here we're using quite standard item codes because in some instances it's easier actually just to have a free text of the actual item description and amend the cost price accordingly, because a lot of items, because a lot of businesses in the industry have thousands of items that they don't necessarily want to keep on record within the system because they may be only used once. So that gives you that flexibility. Okay. Now, these quote lines, what can also happen is the instance where a customer comes to you and asks for a job to be quoted for that is something that you know you've done previously. So it's easy in the system to just replicate a project and pass it on to another customer. Okay, so what we can do here is on this, if I highlight this line, I've got the option here to copy, and it'll open up my copy wizard, which will allow me then to set up a new job. So what I can do at this point is I can copy, if we've got a structure of various tasks within it, so we've got a number of sub-jobs from the template job that we've done, we can copy those through. We can also copy all those lines through. Now, it may be that you want to amend those lines, which can be done once the job's created, but as a starter, we're going to bring through those quote lines. Okay, so you can see here the system's now created my new job. So my old job was 10060. I've now got the next job available, job number available, which is 10062. Okay, so if I now just refresh my job board, I can now see 10062. And if I go into that job now, I can now alter, obviously, this to be more specific to the customer that's requested for this quotation. So although we've copied through all those quote lines, there's nothing stopping us at this point to now alter the actual quotes for that customer. Okay, for argument's sake here, we can add another item to the system. So we've got another valve, perhaps, that we want to add. We've got a quantity of 5. It's brought through our costs, our prices and our costs from the system. And if I now update that, as soon as that's updated, we've got this summary here of the actual project. So we can see at the moment the total cost, total price of the project, and the costs to date that are estimated based on the quote lines that we've got on the system, and obviously our margins as we'd expect based on the unit price and the cost. So that just shows us how we can actually update and manage that quotation. Obviously, at any point, this quotation can be printed and sent to the customer. But once we get to the stage that the customer then comes back to us to confirm that the quote is accepted and we want to go ahead, we can move the job to a next stage, and we call that our confirm stage. And you can see now that these lines have now been grayed out, so we can't edit them. So that means at this point that estimate is now frozen. So it's held at the price that it's at, with the cost associated to it, and only by authorization can these job statuses be changed so that the estimates can be edited. The configuration of a what status will the quote be fixed is entirely up to the user, and it can be set from a system point of view. Okay. Okay, so once we've got that project in the system, the next thing that we need to look at doing is obviously scheduling the resources. So you can see here we've got a number of resources that we've put onto the quote, and we need to now start scheduling them. So within the system, we've got a schedule board. Okay, so the scheduling board is split into various different sections. So if I just close off that. So the first section here on the far left-hand side allows the user, and typically it would be the project manager, to actually look at which jobs they want to actually be looking at to schedule. So again, similar to the job board that we saw where we had the 5 different categories at the top, we've got exactly the same here, so we're allowing us to filter what jobs we see here to actually filter. Again, we can also do it by a date range. Okay. So moving on, we can then look at what objects we can actually schedule. So in here, I've got 3 teams. Within each team, I've got a series of either staff or resource objects. So here you can see I've got a vehicle and I've got some employees. There's different views that we can have of these. This just looks at just the staff members, and then this tab here looks at just the resources. But if I go back to the combined view, so just on the scheduling here, within the system, we obviously set for each individual and each vehicle a allocation of hours. So we can say what available hours based on a employees working at patterns perhaps or shifts of what hours they've got available in that time frame that we set. As we start obviously allocating a person's time, your allocation of hours will increase, and there'll be indication on the system here to say whether we're getting to a threshold of or maximum capacity of that person's allocation. Okay. So once we've actually got our employees, we can start dragging them onto projects. So I can drag a sales manager here onto this project, and I can then start allocating some of their time. Okay, so it's quite very straightforward to drag and drop an individual, and then to obviously start moving their time allocation across the working week. Now, as you can see here, in me moving that one employee, it's then come up that to tell us that there's an overlap, and it actually tells us which job that relates to, so that we can look at where we can perhaps move that person and see where their time's already been allocated. Another section of the scheduling is the ability to look at our non-productive jobs as well. So here we can see in here that we've got Sophie here, who is booked in for a holiday or sickness on this day. If we were to move Sophie's allocation here, which falls on the Thursday, to that Friday, again, the system will tell us that we can't obviously do that because of this sickness that's been booked into the system. Obviously, that can be overridden, but in this instance, we won't. So once you've actually got, in this instance here, a project and you've got a time allocation, there's the ability to flexibly move a whole bunch of the employees and any resources, so that everything keeps in line with the project scheduling. As well, we can drill into the actual task itself and look at the details of the employee and see what actual time allocation we've provided them, and also provide them any notations of what they're actually carrying out on that task. And this information can then all be fed back into the system to alert these particular employees of the schedules that have been set for them. Okay. As well as the scheduling, you can see here we've got different color coding, and that works for the purpose of looking at the different job types so that you can quickly identify which job types you're scheduling, and also allowing you to look at the jobs that are in particular statuses. So it may be that you've got work that's being completed in a final stage, and it's critical that the schedules are kept clear while that project is completed. So just again, by color coding helps project managers manage the resource more effectively. Okay. So the final stage of this presentation is to go through the looking at the job profitability. So as we looked before, we've got the quote lines here, which gives us our overall price for the project and the cost of the project as the estimate made up. What we then want to start looking at is, as the project goes through its different phases, is looking at the actual transactions and then comparing the actual costs to our quoted costs. So here on the actual job here, we can see the costs that have been accrued on this job to date. And then as we actually get to the end of the job, hopefully we're not going to have an overrun, but there are various reports in the system which will allow us to track those projects and look at the profitability of them over the lifestyle of the project. So here I've got a job analysis. And this will allow the project manager to review the project as it stands at the moment. So it will look at all the materials that are on purchase orders. We can look at all the materials that have been booked in to the job, either from stock or from any purchases. And then we can also look at the time allocation, so the labour that's been posted to that project to date. Okay, and so we're building up these costs for the project. Another report that's useful is to look at the job profitability. So we can look at a job profitability, but look at it from an estimates point of view. So as we can see, we've got a quote in the system, but if we look at this report, okay, so we can see here our quoted price. So again, that's that price that we looked at before. So look at what the quoted price was. The price variance, because at the moment we haven't actually invoiced anything, our price variance is exactly the same as our quoted price. This is our quoted cost, and based on the fact that that's our quoted cost, our planned profit for this whole project is just over 16,000. Obviously, as we start processing transactions and start invoicing our customer for this project, our actual profit will be then recognized. Okay, thank you very much for that, and I'm now going to hand you back to Adam, who's just going to give us a quick summary to recap just what we've gone through this morning.
Thank you, Charlie. Great. I think that's just really what we've given you this morning is just a small insight into the way job costing can be done, sort of on a modern integrated system. So the main sort of areas that we've covered is creating that estimate, which ultimately gives you the benefit of having an accurate estimate in the first place, of getting that better retention of your profit margins and not letting them slip away even at the estimating stage. So following that process gives you hopefully a better retention of your profit margins. The insight that we've just given you briefly there into the flexibility that you've got with your resource scheduling really addresses that problem, which I'm sure is very common for a lot of businesses, which is getting that utilization out of not only your people, but maybe your subcontractors, your tools, your vehicles, everything like that, making sure that those assets are working hard for the business is important. And we just only showed you briefly there just a couple of the standard reports which ultimately give you that information, so as managers of the business you can make those informed decisions and hopefully grow that business and ultimately be more profitable. So just a brief insight today into the integrated job costing system, which is powered by SAP Business One and can be implemented by APH. If you have any questions about any of this, please feel free to fill in the contact details on the website. That's www.aphcomputers.co.uk, and we'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you've got. Thank you for your time.